guys, welcome to Big Al's Big Nerd Show. I am, of course, Big Al, and I'm going to be playing Wasteland 3 today. Now, I'm going to be playing on normal mode because I'm a wuss, and I am going to be choosing the Mercenary duo. But first, here is the intro. And while this intro happens, I'm going to give my own little intro. I'm experimenting a little bit with this. I'm going to be editing some of the footage together instead of doing a full long play, because honestly, I spent a lot of time in this game screwing around with my inventory and deciding how to level up, and that's not terribly exciting to play. So I've got a bit over an hour's worth of gameplay that I shortened down to about 20 minutes, and about 3 minutes of that is this intro. So here's the thing about this game that messes with me a lot. I have big problems with games with, sexuality and things like that, especially around my kids. Meanwhile, this is the type of game that I could catch myself playing in front of my kids and then be like, yeah, I probably should. But that lizard part of me, the part of your brain that's kind of instinctive, not the part of you that's actually actively thinking, but the passive part is like, oh man, this game is fine. There's no boobs in here. There's no weird sex stuff. There's no stuff that requires an awkward conversation. Just murder. Just a lot of murder. Just real violence. And some very ugly questions. But also, up till here, we got some very neat, sinister things showing up for this intro. And the guys, banging on the ice, make sure everything's safe. Everything looks sinister. But the problem is, some things... Oh man, I love that mask. It looks super Fallout. Some things that if you include one at a time can be spooky. If you have 1,000 of them, no longer spooky. For instance, under the ice, there isn't just one creepy doll head. Oh no. Instead, there are dozens of creepy doll heads with glowing eyes. I'm sorry. Once you hit that many, it's no longer spooky. I mean, yes, it's tragic. You guys died. They're getting shot with rockets. Lots of rockets. Still concerning. Not really creepy, just concerning. Yeah, and like I said, very violent, very brutal. Instead of me going, my kids probably shouldn't see this, I'm like, you know what? I don't see any boobs. It's fine. This says something about my society. This says something about me. And I am well aware of that. Once again, problematic. Doesn't mean that everything that I do is wrong. Just means I should be aware of it. And there it is. Most of them are dead. Not all of them. Because one of the major themes of this story is no matter how screwed up things get, you gotta keep going. And I don't want my kids to learn about gut puppets or a lot of the other things about this game, but I do want them to learn to keep going. So, as I said earlier, I'm picking the Mercenaries. They've worked under good commanders and bad. This time, they hope they're fighting for folks that won't make them do horrible things. Now, if any of you guys have ever been contractors, you might understand that. Sometimes you have horrible work, but at least you've got a good boss who does not ask you to give people last rites or shit like that. And sometimes you have bosses that are like, hell with that, laws don't matter. And, yeah. I started this thinking, oh man, this would be kind of a moving, engaging thing, and instead I came out of it feeling heavy as hell. But, here's the fight. Now, I decided to slow it down for that spider tank, because anytime you get an enemy that looks like they came out of Ghost in the Shell, you're going to be in trouble. Then I fast forward a little bit, because spider tank kills all of my friends, and I fumble around a lot because I'm trying to remember how the controls for this game work. But yeah, Spider Tank hurts a lot. Whoever you don't pick, they get killed off in this intro. So if I hadn't picked this Mercenary duo, if I'd have picked somebody else, then the Mercenary duo would have gotten killed off here. Anyway, here is the super gun you don't get to see again until pretty much endgame. Oh man, that gun is good. Meanwhile, Prasad, the major who's running everything, who didn't end up dead, is on the other side of like a 5-foot wide chunk of ice that, maybe they could jump, but maybe not. Anyway, The mercenaries remember to stay professional because they're still on the job, and so they say, yes, ma'am, and they move along. They see a lot of messed up stuff, and they loot a lot of stuff, but I'm skipping most of that. Just covering some of the highlights, like this rando dude who's bathing in blood. Once again, I'm like, oh, bathing in blood, that's cool. Boobs, uh-oh, gotta watch out there. And this poor guy who got blown up along with an outhouse, like, I'm sorry, that one's funny. This guy here, we are supposed to have a conversation because they got my person hostage. Instead, I take the rule from Speed, shoot the hostage. Except I didn't miss with a machine gun. Honestly, kind of cool. So this person, a lady who signed up in the military named Jody, let that sink in for a minute. Anyway, Jody's hurt, so we move along and see if there are other rangers that we can help. Well, a little bit late to help that one. And his wife or girlfriend or whatnot still alive, and it's like, oh no, this is why you don't enlist with your, partner. You see them die, you're gonna fall apart, you're gonna be useless as hell for the rest of your team. Meanwhile, I killed off all the bandits and was like, hey, Beltran, join us. And Beltran's like, I'm gonna go back home. And you're like, we're getting rockets shot at us. We are a long ass way from home. And she's like, well, you'll have to kill me. And they've done some bad stuff in the past. They don't want to kill anybody else, especially not friendlies. So they're just gonna let it go. Well, Prasad got hurt, but they're still trying to meet in the middle, looting along the way because, of course, you're gonna loot everywhere along the way. Well, then they get to the boss. This boss is completely nuts, and I don't love a lot of his speech, but I do love how they handle his speech. So, he gives a close-up of, look at how he gestures with the knife. That just says everything about him. He's just like, oh, I am kicked back, I am relaxed. I want to be able to look at everybody else and say, are we having fun or what? If you guys ever saw The Crow, I know, I'm old. Anyway, he's just having a great time, and meanwhile, my character's like, I guess I could see how they didn't come out with guns blazing because he saw them as soon as they came out, and if they raised their guns, he'd probably raise his bazooka, and, paper beats rock, and bazooka beats machine gun. Presumably. I haven't actually seen that competition before, but I'll take their word for it. So instead, they're just trying to figure out what the hell's going on, because here's somebody who is actually willing to talk. Not that he's terribly reasonable, but once again, look at how he's gesturing with that knife. It's just so goofy. Like, you have to expect he's going to cut his face because he's not paying attention while he's talking. But he's having so much fun. And then after thinking about all the violence, I edited out his face blowing up in a thing full of gore. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too hard about it. But Prasad shot him. Prasad's not having a good time. Now, I tried a slightly different approach here. Usually this guy on the top right is a huge pain in the ass to get rid of. He's basically, if you're elevated and you're behind cover, you see it's difficult to do a whole lot of damage to him. So instead, I changed things around from usual. First of all, I did blow up the oil tank because, AoE damage, yay. And then, I was honestly just like, okay, gotta take these guys out. And, luck went my way. Now, first of all, I love that they attacked Prasad because she's got like 5,000 hit points, whereas, I do not. My characters are level... I think they might be level 2 now, but they're probably level 1 at this point. Oh yeah, they were level 1. But I decided, heck with that, I've got grenades. I'm gonna throw one up there. And boom. That guy who's usually a huge problem. Except then I had 2 balloons. 2 grenades. And now the music ended. The combat ended. Usually that doesn't happen until the guys from out of the extra area came out. They didn't come out. Now, Prasad is dying. She basically says, look, the mission is down to you now. And there's a secret part of the mission that nobody knows about. Angela Death from the first Wasteland game from 1984, maybe 88, is around, and nobody knows it. And you should try and join up with her if you can. There's some foreshadowing there because nobody else knows that Angela Death is anywhere around. But also, yeah, you can end that combat without the people with the RPGs coming out. If you ever play this yourself, if you take one more round there, some people with an RPG come out of this building, and it's for the best that they come out, because right now, my character has no rocket launcher. But if you kill the guy with the rockets, well, the other guy that popped out with the rockets, you would get a rocket launcher. And I like big booms. Things I can still say at this point in my life. I like explosions. Okay, so there we go. Who's Angela Death? She's famous. I'm surprised you don't know about her. And for the record, if you did play any of the previous Wasteland games, you've probably run across her, especially because in the first one, she's one of your people. Well, one of the default people. If you want to replace her, you can. Anyway, Major Prasad thinks that she can catch her breath and get up. If you have first aid, you will know that she can't. If you have hard ass, you can inform her that she can't. I don't have either. And I am not about to kill her. They don't want to have to make decisions like that. So they try to help pick her up, but she dead. So the first thing we do is loot her. That's what she would have wanted. Honestly, you know, if I die, I want my family to loot my place and survive. That's, you know, the whole goal of life is to help survive. Okay, so we loot the weapons crate, because of course we do. And there's a rocket, no rocket launcher. And then we meet Major Tom. Now, Jody told us about Major Tom. But fortunately for us, we're ground control. And so we get Major Tom on our party. And then we move on. Jody shows up. And Jody's like, dang it, everybody dead. Then we get to meet the Patriarch. Or as I will refer to him, as you'll notice with his hammer later on, Mr. Fister. Long story short, he tells us it's his fault that the people attacked us. And he's got a prisoner that we can kill with a bag on his head. And like I said, the mercenaries don't really want to kill people if they don't have to. So, you know, they're going to let him do it. And, yeah, take a look at his hammer here. This is, classy. And he's like, hey, thank you. But not really. And the deal is still in place. He's going to give us reinforcements along with, you know, a chance to get more gear and all of that so that we can solve his problem. Now, for those of you who are paying close attention, first of all, look at that fist behind his head. That is his hammer. It's the Fist of America, Fist of Justice, God only knows what. But it's a goofy-ass hammer, and I kind of love it. But also, he's hiring somebody external because he can't trust his internal sources not to betray him to his kiddos. So we go into this place, the alarm's going on. I love their noise. I love their voice. And I kind of leveled up earlier and got some kiss ass just so that, well, it makes a lot of things easier in this game. And there you go. They're going to keep an eye on me, but it doesn't matter. It's not like I'm going to do anything really unethical here. I'm going to disable the alarm, which makes everybody happy, and poof, I have taken control of the place, and they take pictures. And then everybody shows up again. The Patriarch's like, hey, you passed my first test of getting in here without dying. Turns out they've owned the place for quite a while, but haven't really gone in there. Not for about a decade. They don't really know what's going on in this place. But they say that I can use it, and so I immediately go through there and start the most important thing, looting. there's a lot of places here that just have like one or two pick lock, and so yeah, go through there, loot it all. Major Tom standing behind us, and of course the robots don't care at all that I'm looting. They're just hanging loose. Sometimes they will argue over which robot is the robot in charge. I choose my crew. I select Banshee because she is an awesome sniper. And I select Wolf because I haven't tried Wolf before. And honestly, I'm a big fan of auto weapons in this game. Automatic guns. They tend to have pretty good range. They go through ammo a little bit fast, but their ammo tends to be cheap. Oh, exploring the base, and I find a bunch of refugees. They're the ones that set off the alarm. Once again,
Who are you?
I'm playing these mercenaries who don't want to be told to do awful things. They're not saints. They're not going to go like out of their way to try to be the hero of the Wasteland.
The Patriarch's people don't care
But
about people like us. But you're not.
they don't want to have to make the awful choices. So, instead, they're just like, you know what, refugees? If you're going to be through here, if you're going to be setting off our alarms and all that, fine. Since you're not welcome in the city, you can stay here. And sure, Marshal Kwan is like, oh no, they're going to cause trouble. I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to let them live here. And I start exploring the rest of the place. This guy is weird. I question him. He's stoned out of his gourd. Once again, no problem in video games of people mentioning like weird drug use, but you know, if he was there in a Speedo, I'd be like, oh, I don't know about this. But yeah, he is so drugged up, he doesn't even know his name. He doesn't know how long he's been there. He once again references the fact that people have been in this place before. The refugees have only been here a little while. I believe they said about a week or so. But, and they didn't let the guy out of the prison because they weren't sure what to do about that. He just seemed a little weird to them. But they checked out a lot of the other places, and long story short, they say, yeah, that area had dead people in it. I went away. That area had dead people in it. I got out of there. That area had a monster. I got out of there. So I explored this place, and sure enough, there are feral critters. You can hear the sound. And so now I got my people. Yep, and there's one of them. You can see its radius, and I'm like, I don't like razorbacks. So there, and there, and yeah, they did manage to poison one of my people, and there I am taking damage. But that doesn't matter because that's a small price to pay for looting. It's not gonna kill her, so you know, time to continue looting. And I got Radical Rachel. It's kind of like a bobblehead, so now everybody does extra explosive damage. I decided to let this guy out, and then he gets creepy. He's like, thank you, but then he says, this won't be the last time you hear from me. And with a laugh like that, you're like, okay, he's sinister as heck. What kind of serial killer leaper have I set loose? Well, we're not going to dwell on that right now. We're going to keep exploring. So we go over to here and open up the med bay, and we find dead people. A lot of dead people. And if you check them, they all look like they were, well, chained up. They look like they died in here, but they mainly died because they were slaves. So, yeah, whoever had this place at one point before, almost definitely slavers. That, makes you a little bit nervous about what else might be in this base. And a pile of corpses. I mean, what's better than a pile of corpses in your new place, right? You know, what kind of housewarming gift do you want? I want a pile of corpses. And, yeah, people whipped. And then there's a further down door that you cannot get through. And at this point, you're like, may not want to know what's down in that door. May want to post a guard there. Oh, and here we get to the next room, which is booby trap, just like the people said it was. And so I undo the booby trap, and I'm like, hey, there's loot here. Yes, going for the loot. And by loot, I mean trash, but hey, there's loot. And the explosives are a little bit too high level for me to deal with, so I'm going to get the trash, and I'm totally going to pretend this was on purpose. Yeah. Because that's how we loot in this game. Also, you gotta love, she gets set on fire, and she is so happy to be alive. So this corpse looks like it was cut up. That's all that we know. And this slicer dicer looks like it was shot. That's all that we know. So we should totally try to repair it. Well, that might have been a mistake. Fortunately, we have guns. And we managed to kill it right before the end of our turn, so one of my people would have probably taken it in the face. But we're moving on and looting the rest of this room. Now, already, you can see this base. It's kind of surprising. This guy just had this place here for years and never really did anything with it. But, you know, it's convenient for us that that's the case because we could loot everything. And here's Jody, still, needing to recover. So she's going to sit on her butt while we continue to loot the entire place. So far we've managed to not make any horrible choices yet, but give us time. Because this game has only just begun. Oh, and I make an animal friend out of a doggo. There you go. So yeah. This point, I pretty much am ready to go to town, and that's going to wrap it up for this video. Hope you guys had fun. Stay sane. It is wild out there.